When you do a relief, such as the piece behind me, throughout the day it changes. The character of the light will change it a lot more than it will change a painting. Your position relative to it will change a lot more as you walk around it, and as you see it, you discover new relationships, new phenomena. So a lot of the pieces in there were about that. I do a lot of other pieces in stone and steel, and a majority of my time now has probably been spent in recent years more on monumental, big outside pieces. So when I began thinking about these things in the mid-70s, I began thinking, is there some way in which I can think of doing projects in public, in the world, that people can share, mostly through either seeing it or thinking of it. The first project I did like this, called Four Corners Project. And I tried to think of what would be the largest sculpture in the world with the least amount of material. So if you think of a tetrahedron, which is like a pyramid, except the bottom is a triangle, not a square, it's only 4 sides to it. And I'd already been doing a lot of sculptures with tetrahedrons, interested in them, and then relating them to spheres. What occurred to me is if I had a sphere but thought of that as the Earth, and then imagined a tetrahedron inside of the Earth, it would touch at just 4 spots. Thought, what if I go to those 4 spots and put down a little tiny corner? The alignment will be the largest sculpture that can ever be built with the least amount of material. So then I tried to think of, where would that be? Well, I sure didn't want to put it down in already heavily finance-dominant cultures, you know, to go to Paris or something like that. The 4 spots I picked out were Easter Island, Africa, New Guinea, and Greenland. And it took me 9 years, because I financed it all myself, going to those places and putting down this outer corner, documenting it all. Writing about, in the end, I've written about all the cultures involved and the people I met and the adventures of it all, which were very interesting. Then I did a project on the US-Canada border. My father was British, my mother was Canadian, they met in Canada. Those of us who grow up in Detroit think of Canada all the time. It's right there, it's part of you. And yet, I started to think that as far as I knew, there was nothing commemorating in art that border, which is the largest, longest, peaceful border in human history. Well, that's kind of interesting to me. So then it has other interesting characteristics to it. It follows the path of the sun. The sun goes right over that. So I picked out 3 spots in the far east coast, Campobello Island, which is off of New Brunswick in Maine. And I put in a part of a stone arch there with a woman's handprint on it. And then the first place the sun hits every day is that, in America, is that stone. You know. Then I lined up another one in Lake of the Woods, that's at noon, Lake of the Woods, Minnesota. And another one at Point Roberts, Washington on the West Coast. So, and that project's called Sun Sweep. And that took me a couple of years to do and finance. All of these projects, I have to go to the people that live there. I have to meet them. They don't know whether I'm selling them some piece of junk or what I'm doing, you know. I have to get them to trust me. I have to find a way physically to do it. They're tough. They're not, you don't just back your truck up and put it down. There are things to do. And so there's many other aspects, you know, to the story, to carrying this thing out. What I feel that the goal of an artist or a musician or a writer, anybody in the arts, is to create consciousness, become more awake. I think we live in a world that's very numbing, and people just keep themselves busy all the time. They have on 2 TVs in the house and plus a headset, and then they get on the phone, you know. I believe so much in trying to raise consciousness And when we look at the political mess that the country's been in, was that a plan, or is it just because people weren't thinking about it? You know, it's how do we get people to become awake and aware and alive, fully alive, and enjoy what's around them. Just to see what's there. So I'd say that's been my mission in my life, is to, as a teacher and as an artist, is to try to convey some of that, what for me is very, very important.